Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Midday Update. I'm Laz. It is Monday afternoon. We are approaching the lunchtime hour, so let's go and review what has happened this morning and some possible setups into this afternoon that you can possibly key on for some trading opportunities. Let's start with the S&Ps. Looks like last week, and I was out on Thursday and Friday, but it looks like here's the S&P chart, here's the spiders. You know, we still have that topping tail back from a few weeks ago after the QE3 announcement. A little bit of a retrace here. We came back to right around the 147 area, which was a gap up on Friday, and selling off and gapping down again this morning. Not much intraday opportunity here as we look at the day so far. We are faced with a gap down. You know, there's not much to say here other than I think traders are kind of keen off of these shorter term trend lines. We did put in a lower high, you know, on Friday. So something to just pay attention to. Other than that, it is a very, very choppy pattern in here. You know, traders are kind of taking every single day as its own entity at this point, at least here on the trading floor, as there's just not enough structure in here to work with. Could we see new highs? Well, we could. Could we continue to push lower and make a new low here and begin a process of what could be, you know, a possible, you know, lower high, you know, lower low type trade? So either scenarios are still on the table here. I think as we push into the 21 EMA down here around 145, 144.50, I think traders are going to watch to see how price reacts. Intraday, here's a 13-minute chart. Intraday, you saw the gap down. We're now about 2 hours into the session, and we're on the lows, but there's just not a whole lot of momentum here for traders to really work with. Could we continue to lower into the close? Absolutely. This certainly doesn't speak to any intraday strength. And we're going to move along over to Apple. Obviously, all eyes here. Breaking that key support level, going back here. This is now the third day down. You can see the candlesticks are getting, larger. Momentum starting to kick in here. Could we see a little consolidation here? We could over the next couple of days. It does, to me, look like we broke down out of this, what looks to be a little bit of a topping pattern, little head and shoulders top here. And we could see a trade down, lower over time. Let me close this. Possibly about, this distance, which would take us down to the lower 600s, that last, true breakout area over here. So we could be in for a test of that in some time. Again, I wouldn't be shorting down here, but any, 1 to 2 to 3 day bounce on this time frame could lead to another tradable opportunity. So a lot of eyeballs on Apple, obviously, from both the intraday trading and from a swing trading perspective, as is now, taking out a pretty key level of support in that, 660, area, 655, 660, which it's tried to hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5 times in here. So definitely some eyeballs there, and there's been some tradable opportunities for those that are more momentum oriented. So that's really where the opportunity's been intraday. We're going to pop over to Google, which has been, a perennial strong stock over the last couple of months. Still holding in, gapping down, taking out this 8 EMA so far intraday, although very subtle. Not a lot of volume here, but something we need to watch against that high. So we'll keep an eye. I think the weekly tells a story. If we were to take out, this is a weekly chart, and you can see, 12, 13 straight up weeks in Google. Could be time for a pullback here. Keep an eye on if we take out last week's low at 750.25, could provide, those looking for that, cute short or selling opportunity. So something to watch. Let's go back to the dailies. Biotech still, act very, very well. This is Gilead, basing here at the highs. Having some trouble, up here at the highs around 70.5, but definitely still a strong stock. Needs to be watched for a potential breakout in the days ahead. Moving on to some others, NFLX. Again, still looks very, very good. Some selling here on this gap up today, but, pattern's still very intact. Jazz, J-A-Z-Z, still intact. Pulling back here at new highs at 60. So give it some time, see if these stocks can set back up I think a few more days you could see some opportunity in that space. Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, some banks to watch. Goldman looks just like the S&Ps in the sense that it put in that high, possible lower high right here around 121 from Friday. Not much doing intraday here, both in Goldman and JP. Still hanging in though. It's definitely a lot of eyeballs still on banks. Looking for leadership to take this market possibly back to highs again. I think banks will need to start to participate. But with that weakness in Apple, it's going to be it's a little bit of a tug of war. So you got to pick and choose your battles very, very wisely here. Like I said, the market's not giving us a whole lot of clear-cut direction, not a lot of momentum, and not a lot of enthusiasm, either higher or lower here. So keep your powder dry, as they say, and stay nimble. Wait for some good setups. It's a very stock-specific intraday specific trade. The one I think I forgot to mention, Netflix. The squeeze is on here. If we look at a weekly of Netflix, just kind of get a much broader picture. This level down here around $50, I think it was 53. We've seen a couple touches of that 53 mark. We'll go to a daily, over here back in August, in September, and again, in late September. Held 3 times that low, and now you're seeing that, all the shorts probably get squeezed into this one. We look to the left, into this gap. I do think it could possibly trade higher into the upper 70s, 78, 79, even $80. So keep an eye on this one for some of that, some more that short squeeze type opportunity. Let's go intraday here. Here's a 13-minute chart. We saw a nice move at the open, kind of, a little choppy in here between that 72, 73 area, but look to buy on a pullback for some follow through. And if it can't really get going into today, it'll probably, sit in a high level base somewhere up here, and then we might see another gap up tomorrow. So a couple of trade ideas on the board. But at this point, I think, narrow your focus, make sure you're, on top of the trades you're taking, whether they're day trades or swing trades. There are still a lot of good-looking charts out there that need to be watched and cultivated for potential higher prices, but I think a little more time is needed here. As always, Plan Trader's a profitable trader. I'm Laz. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Sean Hendelman of T3 Live, where we train, coach, and mentor traders in order to help you put your money to work with confidence. The T3 Live approach is a blueprint for you to recognize, adapt, and ultimately take advantage of different market conditions. To begin your training with T3 Live, we would like to offer you the opportunity to enroll in our free 30-day online home study course. Fill in your name and email address, and I'll see you on the other side.